Today I'm joined by Vince, a tattoo artist and game developer working on a hand-drawn Metroidvania called Super Roboy. We dive into his upcoming game, the industry as a whole in 2024, and how he approaches playtesters. Buckle up, let's get into it. Indie versus AAA nowadays, right? Looking forward into the future, how do you think these two kind of compete with each other? And what is the expectation in the years to come as you look at both of these together?
They're very different things, but I do think they can coexist in the same space because it's different tastes for different people. And even I like to play an expansive game every now and then. I usually never finish it. But then I switch it up with one that's finished in a couple of hours. As an indie game developer, you kind of have to make a compact game unless you have a big team, but I'm doing it solo, so I can't make a 200-hour 3D open world MMORPG. So I don't think a lot of indie devs have a choice, but as far as the players go, I think there's a player base for everything.
AI has been a major topic, right? In the last 2 years, it's just become more and more in the spotlight. People are really interested in it. It's evolved, it's grown. What is AI, right? Nobody really has a firm explanation on that and how it impacts game development, how it impacts artwork. And so for you, as somebody with an artistic background, you use AI to a degree in your full-time work right now. But as you look at AI as a game development tool, how do you think that it will impact game development? And then how is it going to continue to evolve to help game development in the future in the next 5-10 years?
A lot, probably in 5-10 years. Yeah. I mean, it's growing. It's getting exponentially smarter every month, I feel like, or every year at least. So when I started making my game, it wasn't really that available, maybe for story writing, but you'd get ChatGPT, super lame answers, but it helped me in the story, laying out the story and all that. But you couldn't program with it yet. Now you can. I actually did it not too long ago. I needed a little script, pretty simple, and I asked ChatGPT, and he did it better than I could. I probably would have done it kind of the same in the end, but he did it really fast, at least, right? Yeah. So it's here, and it's here with art, music. It's here with all the creative stuff, unfortunately. But I think we're gonna have to learn to live with it. It's not going anywhere. I think the better option is to use it to your advantage in a way that it doesn't really, it should still be you and made by you, because it tends to be very generic, especially with art, right? But I think it's up to us to make sure that we keep it with ourselves and just use it as a tool and not a replacement, if that makes any sense. I'm a tattooer, I told you that in our last talk, and I compare it to the iPad. We used to draw on paper, and then the iPad came out, and when you drew on paper, you'd get your hands dirty with whiteout. If you made mistakes, you'd have to start all over again. And then the iPad came, and you could just take a Google image, trace it, do this, and then it would delete any mistakes you made. Yeah. And at first, everybody was very skeptical and afraid, or this is never going to change anything. But now everybody's using it. One thing that changes is that everybody starts tattooing now. So I think in the game scene, if it becomes too easy, it's going to be flooded with people who do it, and probably quite generic. It's not going to be good for me, but for the players too. I think if there's 100 people making generic games and there's one good one, it's kind of hard to find a good one. I'm afraid places like Steam might become flooded with generic AI stuff. And that's also why I think it's important to use it as a tool, like the iPad. Don't just Google image, trace Google images, but use it to make your drawings better. That's what I do, and my friends too. It can be used for programming and for art and for music to make your life a little easier, but still it has to be personal. It has to be you. For example, I animate everything by hand, 24 frames per second, while digitally by hand. There's a difference between hand-drawn and traditionally drawn. And it takes a lot of time because I have to draw every single in-between frame. Now, I could imagine AI next year or in 2 years, I feed it an image that I drew. Maybe it'll draw the in-betweens for me. I take that sprite sheet or whatever it produces, and I trace it to make it better or make it more personal. And then it would probably cut down production time while still be my drawings. Then it's a tool.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because Valve is letting AI create games on Steam this year. Didn't do it last year. It had not allowed that. But the problem, I think, is AI is such a broad term. And to a degree, AI tools and concepts have been in gaming for the better part of a decade, essentially, with procedural generation, with code automation, with, there really was never anything for artwork per se, but I mean, there's a lot of small elements that were kind of, I guess if you had to look at a definition for AI, they would probably fall under that. And so the question becomes, I mean, there's layers to it, right? It's what specifically is AI? How is it going to impact game development? I completely agree. There's going to be a ton of very crappy games that are very quickly made. I think more mobile than anything will be impacted by it. But Steam definitely will get just flooded with games that are not to the standard that they should have been. Years and years and years ago, Steam had a process where they approved games, right? Nowadays, you can just release a game and it's on Steam. But back in the day, years ago, you would have to have your game approved by Steam before it ever got onto the Steam library. And does that come back in 2025? Does that become like an application process, right? And then is that fair to indie game developers? And if it is, how is it fair? There's so many questions. AI opens up this whole new dilemma, right? And it's just something that I have no idea what's going to happen in the next year or two. And I have no idea how it's going to impact devs.
No, and that's just in the indie game scene we're talking about.
Yep, exactly.
It's a global thing. This is affecting everybody, and it's going to affect so many people. And I think a lot of people don't yet realize these years, maybe last year or this year, that's history.
Yep.
People will refer to this as that's when AI started. I think I can't look in the future.
You mentioned the creative work you're doing with this game, right? And one of the biggest draws that I had when I was looking at your game for the first time before I even reached out to you was that the artwork on your game is just really unique. Like, it really struck me as something that was super different from other titles. And as we talked on our prep call, you mentioned that you were a tattoo artist, and I thought, oh, it kind of fits that he has an artistic background. He's been doing this before. It kind of probably meshes with his artistic style as a tattoo artist. As you look at blending your careers, right, from a tattoo artist by day, game developer in the afternoon, how much crossover is there? And how do you think being a tattoo artist impacts being a game developer?
You can definitely see the drawing style in the game. There's going to be some bosses that are straight up tattoos. So I make Japanese tattoos. The game is not set in Japan. Something that I thought later I should have done that, but because I do that every day, all day. But I did make a Hanya, a Japanese demon face. That I could tattoo that on a customer. And I use hard outlines because it's a hand-drawn kind of style. I like to keep things readable because you need to make tattoos readable. So I think automatically translates into the game style. Other than that, one of the reasons I started doing this is because I wanted something completely different, but still creative. So for 10, 11 years, I was only tattooing and drawing and painting, and I made books and I wrote books about Japanese tattoos, and my work weeks were probably, if you call it work, 70 hours of just tattoos. And then after 10, 11 years, about 2 years ago, it started burning me out, and I noticed I wasn't enjoying the actual tattooing as much anymore because I was doing it all the time. So I started looking for stuff to do that's not related. I started making music a little bit more. I started trying to animate stuff. I started drawing comic books. I just didn't really know what to do yet. And I started programming a little bit, something my father taught me as a kid. And then I found Unity, and it all came together. I thought, okay, I can take all those things and just put them in one hobby. And the reason I love it so much, partly because it's not tattoo related. That's weird because I love tattooing. It's my passion. But now I find another passion that I can just switch to and forget all about the day, and the next day I'm fresh and I can make tattoos again. I have no expectations. I'm doing this first and foremost for myself. I started doing this for myself, and then I found people giving me feedback, strangers on the internet suddenly being interested. And then I slowly started doing it for other people too. So now it turned from just a hobby into something that I think, it would be nice to have people play it and enjoy it. But that wasn't really the reason I started it in the first place. And then I realized my father taught me how to program, and I didn't see him for most of my adult life. We didn't have the best relationship until he got real sick, and then we got back together again, and that was tough but good. But then he passed away 2 weeks later, and then I found out that my sister told me he was still making video games on his old computer. So then I thought, okay, I really want to make a game that would make him proud, a game that we could have made together. So personal success is just making the game, finishing it, and then being like in the final titles, this is for my father, and that's enough for me personally. but I'm not going to just keep it on my laptop and not publish it. So there's financial success. I don't know. I'm more interested in making people like it.
You talked about people playing the game and talked about playtesting. And so talk to me about how you get playtesters, how you approach playtesting, how you implement it into your game, right? How you kind of siphon out who you're going to listen to, who you're not going to listen to. Walk me through that whole process.
It was an organic process because I made the prototype for this game. It wasn't good. It didn't look good. It didn't play good.
Yep.
It was just really a beginner's game. And I struggled making it better. So I started posting it on Reddit. Like, what do you guys think? And they just started burning it to the ground.
Damn. Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah.
This sucks. The jump looks whack. The character looks like a clown.
Okay.
La 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 la. And that hurt a little bit at first.
Yeah.
But then I thought, okay, maybe I can use all that feedback to actually make a nice game instead of some homemade wacky clown-looking robot game.
Yeah.
So I started posting on one specific sub, the Metroidvania sub on Reddit. Way too much. People thought I was just promoting my game.
Yeah.
But I was really looking for feedback. I was really looking for those tough pills to swallow where people go, I hate it. And then you go, okay, so why do you hate it? I even sent people private messages saying, hey, you said you hated it, so tell me, what don't you like? And that approach really helped because even the comments that you think, oh, that's useless, that's just haters. If you approach them a little differently, I mean, you shouldn't stalk them probably, but they tend to become a little nicer, like, oh, yeah, sorry I said that, but I think the jump looks silly and the character doesn't interest me much. And then I went, okay, I can use all that. So it started with that, and then I found some playtesters on that sub, and they had so much amazing feedback that I just scrapped the whole project and started from scratch. And then people started liking it. So it wasn't just I hate it or it looks shitty. Some people said, oh, this is actually better. And people got excited on Reddit too, and even on Twitter, like, oh, what I thought this was gonna be whack, but I guess you do take it seriously and it's looking better now. So it was an organic process. It wasn't something I thought about from the beginning. It just happened when I started asking for feedback. But that did teach me a valuable lesson. Everybody that replies has something to say. Even if something sounds very hateful, I still like to think, okay, what is he trying to say? And the playtesting was probably the best thing to make the game better. I did 2 playtests now because then you see what other people see. Those things were super helpful. Feedback online and playtesting.
As we look at Super Roboy itself, talk to me about the gameplay, the story, the character design.
What's a Metroidvania? And I put a little focus on learning enemy skills. So you have to defeat certain enemies to find a certain skill. You don't have to defeat hundreds of enemies to get one skill, but that's the way you learn movement upgrades. That's the way you sort of level up. Another thing I hope people will get excited about is I want backtracking to be really rewarding. And Metroidvanias are all about exploring. So the main route that you have to go isn't that long, but it's going to be very difficult unless you backtrack a lot or unless you explore a lot. Another thing I'm excited about is the story. Metroidvanias don't really have a story, and it's skippable because I understand people don't play those games for the story. But I've really tried to put emphasis on the story, Roboy's history that he sort of has to uncover. It's told through comic books because I wanted to be a comic book artist as a kid, so now I can do that in the game. And then if people don't like it, they can just press E and then get it over with, right? So one thing that I implemented is you target enemies by shooting them, and then you press a button and they explode. But if you target multiple enemies, you get more experience points and they take more damage. And then there's little elements that you can use against certain enemies to improve the damage. So I was trying to make it a little more strategic than other Metroidvanias. You can just go and shoot, and then they die too. But I wanted, and the first playtest really showed that it worked because people said, I love that little part because now I'm not just killing enemies, I'm killing them for the skills. And I'm also trying to target as many enemies as possible to get as many points as possible.
I see.
Another one comes to mind is the normal or the traditional movement upgrades are also optional. So the air dash, wall jump. They're all in there, double jump. But I made a few working ones where you can plant a mushroom, where you can bounce on it and you jump higher and the mushroom disappears. Or you turn into a shuriken, the throwing star kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
That can break through walls and kill off enemies. I looked at Cuphead a lot for the boss fights. I want them to be a little bit difficult, short, and a lot of them are optional. There's going to be like 20 bosses in the game, and I think you only have to defeat 1, 2, 3, about 5, plus the final boss.
Release date, can you touch on it?
There's a good chance I'm going to have to postpone it a little bit, but at the speed up that I'm going at now, hopefully early next year, max summer next year.